Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Adhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto thee, unto us, and to all your beloved children everywhere. Well, good afternoon on this Saturday, and welcome to our reading and discussion of the book Divine Grace. I'm pretty sure all of you know the little history of how this book came to be. If not, please ask. If there's anything that anyone would like to bring up having to do with what we've read or discussed so far, please do that. Otherwise, I'll ask Jeff to proceed.
And I will ask everyone to help me with my pronunciation of Sanskrit terms. Starting with the title for section 3, which is where we're taking it up. Shankara versus Kripa. Do I have that right?
Say it again, please.
Shankara. I'm mumbling, I'm sorry. Shankara.
Shakara.
Shankara. Purushakara. With an accent over the second A.
I don't know the meaning of that word.
Shankara versus Kripa. It was described in the preceding section as self-effort.
Oh.
So am I saying it wrong?
You are indeed mispronouncing it.
Okay.
It is. And now, of course, it's gone out of my mind. But self-effort, Purushakara.
That's what he said, Brother Shankara. Purushakara.
Purushakara. All right. I didn't understand it. Purushakara.
On top of these,
Purusha being the self, Kara being effort, self-effort.
On top of the obvious difficulties, then we have the fact that audio in Zoom land is not always pristine. So.
All right. Well, we're doing the best we can.
Yes, we are. So
we've established that we're talking about self-effort.
Section 3, Purushakara versus Kripa. So, at the beginning of our spiritual life, we strive to develop character under the guidance of social ethics. What Moses presented as law, what Vedanta speaks of as dharma, in the context of interaction with other human beings, whether in a tribal setting, in a wider national setting, or in the widest international context. This training helps us to develop ethical virtues and graces, to humanize us, and to grow and expand beyond our organic and ego limitations. This gives man the experience of his or her self-transcending. Let me start that sentence again. This gives man the experience of his or her self transcending itself, even at this stage of self-effort. And unless we erect ourselves above ourselves, how poor a thing is man, sang Wordsworth. It is at this stage that our understanding becomes spiritually mature to recognize and to respond to the pull of the transcendental, the touch of that dimension of reality that lies above the sensory level. This is the beginning of a more conscious striving in the spiritual life, above the merely moral or ethical level. In the language of religion, it represents a conscious turning to God or to its other spiritual equivalents. The gentle breeze of kripa, or divine grace, becomes felt at this stage in the context of self-effort itself. Often we don't have that comprehension, don't want to reckon with it, and there is no harm in that attitude, says the Gita, and assures man, depending upon yourself, this self-reliance is good and salutary and necessary. The Gita also tells us why this self-reliance, this purushakara, is necessary, why it is good and beneficial, and at what stage we shall be in a position to renounce it and depend entirely on divine grace, or Ishvara Kripa. This initial emphasis on self-effort.
How are you spelling that Ishwara, the word that comes after that? How are you spelling that?
The Swami spells it K-R-P-A.
Yeah. Kripa. Kripa.
Kripa? Okay. I always thought that if there's an accent mark over the A, a straight line over the A, then that syllable gets emphasis. But I could be wrong.
No, it's Kripa.
Kripa.
This is I've been misunderstanding all along the word you've been saying.
Okay.
Kripa means that divine grace.
Right. My apologies.
Oh no apologies necessary. It's just I should have interrupted you earlier when I wasn't understanding. So Guru Kripa means the grace of the divine in its highest sense. The Guru as the eternal teacher.
And so there's just just a couple of more sentences in this section.
Okay, go ahead.
This initial emphasis on self-effort finds powerful expression in the exhortation of Jesus, as quoted in Matthew. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. And that concludes the quotation and the section.
Well, there it is. That's the grace of the great teacher. If we seek, if we ask, if we knock, it will be given unto us. But as was pointed out earlier, if you don't do that, no harm, no foul, as the Gita points out. It's just not time yet. As Sri Ramakrishna points out over and over, things happen at exactly the right time. That's his most considered opinion. Anything else from anyone before Jeff reads on into the next section? Okay, please read on, dear.
Section 4. Spirituality pervades all human life. We ask, when shall we begin our spiritual life? The Gita and the Upanishads answer, when you are young, when your body is strong, when your mind is fresh and vigorous. But the answer of an otherworldly piety will be quite otherwise. It will tell you, begin to think of religion when you are old and jaded. Enjoy sensory pleasures to the full in your youth and manhood, and concern yourself with your otherworldly prospects when the body becomes unfit for them. The philosophy of Vedanta bridges the gulf between action and contemplation, work and worship, the secular and the sacred. This was the philosophy that Swami Vivekananda preached in East and West alike at the end of the last century. Highlighting its unifying vision, Sister, I'm not sure how to say her name, Nivedita? Nivedita?
Nivedita, Nivedita. It means the offered one. Sister Nivedita.
Sister Nivedita, also known as Miss Margaret Noble, writes, and she's quoted in the complete works of the Swami, the many and the one are the same reality, perceived by the mind at different times and in different attitudes. And this is quite a lengthy quote here.
Well, let's just
which,
and wait. This is such a key idea. Read this, the many and the one are the same. So read that again, please.
And then continue with the rest of the quotation?
Yes, please.
Okay. Perceived by the mind at different times and in different attitudes. This adds its significance to our Master's life, for here he becomes the meeting point, not only of East and West, but also of past and future. If the many and the one be indeed the same reality, then it is not all modes of worship alone, but equally all modes of work, all modes of struggle, all modes of creation, which are paths of realization. No distinction henceforth between sacred and secular. To labor is to pray. To conquer is to renounce. Life is itself religion. To have and to hold is as stern a trust as to quit and to avoid. This is the realization which makes action, not as divorced from, but as expressing jnana, or self-knowledge, and bhakti, or love of God. To him the workshop, the study, the farmyard, and the field are as true and fit scenes for the meeting of God with man as the cell of the monk or the door of the temple. To him there is no difference between service of man and worship of God, between manliness and faith, between true righteousness and spirituality. And that concludes the quotation. Shall I pause there because the section goes on?
Yeah, let's pause there and see if there's any discussion. If anyone wants to bring up anything from their own wisdom or experience or any concern or question about this, there being no difference. The many and the one are the same. Work and worship are the same. There is only this moment-to-moment existence we call life, and it is life, of course. And so we go ahead with it, but it's so important for us not to think of it as this is this and that is that. It's all divine grace manifesting as our phenomenal existence. Anything else from anyone?
So, brother, that sounds like karma yoga to me, because all of these are actions, and all of these are actions leading us further along in our spiritual lives.
Well, that's why the Gita is mentioned. The Gita, in its basic instruction, is a long discussion of how to practice karma yoga. So you're absolutely right. It is karma yoga. It is action, and we're to see this action as the manifestation of divine grace.
And it's also giving everything a Godward turn, right?
Yes, exactly.
I think it's saying that all is self.
That's another way to say it, dear. Yes. That all is self. There is nothing but the self, capital S. And of course, that manifests to us as both the capital S self, which we can access, or and the small s self, which is how we experience day-to-day phenomenal existence. But you're right, Bhagavan, it is all self.
Another way to say it might be that everything is God.
Yes,
And if that's true, then anything that we do, we are doing it in God. We're doing it as God's work.
yes. And this, the amazing part about this is, as Vivekananda points out, this is true even of those who appear to be doing evil. There is nothing but God's work. There is no such thing as Satan or a satanic impulse.
And good and evil are our misguided attempts to try to say that things are good and evil when we really don't have, like you say, brother, it's above our pay grade.
Yes,
Well, one can't, it's like you can't know the concept of silence unless there's noise,
yes. Precisely. You can't know motion unless there's stillness. You can't know silence unless there's noise. Precisely. The opposites are what this phenomenal existence is made of. And of course, for the evildoers, we have a system of laws to control their antisocial behavior. But that doesn't mean that we condemn or judge them. We simply say that it is their karma to fall into the grip of the judicial system, the legal system.
But literally there has to be some form of corruption to the purity in order for anything to exist. That is duality. It's how things come to exist, actually.
Precisely. That is Maya. Avidya Maya and Vidya Maya. Precisely. Anything else from anyone? Thank you as always, Bhagavan. All right, let's read on.
Pointing out what such a unifying philosophy means to the emerging world and to all modern men and women, theists or atheists, believers or agnostics, I cannot do anything better than quote a moving passage, almost prophetic in spirit, from a lecture of Swami Vivekananda on the necessity of religion, delivered in London in 1896, and quoted from the Complete Works. And this is quite a long quotation.
And then the title is The Necessity of Religion.
So it's so long that if someone has a question, it might be good to just interrupt.
Yeah, that's fine.
Four paragraphs. As the human mind broadens, its spiritual steps broaden too. The time has already come when a man cannot record a thought without its reaching to all corners of the earth. By merely physical means, we have come into touch with the whole world. So the future religions of the world have to become as universal, as wide. The religious ideals of the future must embrace all that exists in the world and is good and great, and at the same time have infinite scope for future development. All that was good in the past must be preserved, and the doors kept open for future additions to the already existing store. Religions must also be inclusive and not look down with contempt upon one another because of their particular ideas of God are different. In my life, I have seen a great many spiritual men, a great many sensible persons who did not believe in God at all, that is to say, not in our sense of the word, Perhaps they understood God better than we can ever do. The personal idea of God, or the impersonal, the infinite, the moral law, or the ideal man, these all have to come under the definition of religion. And when religions have become thus broadened, their power for good will have increased 100-fold. Religions having tremendous power in them have often done more injury to the world than good, simply on account of their limitations. Religious ideas will have to become universal, vast, and infinite, and then alone we shall have the fullest play of religion, for the power of religion has only just begun to manifest in the world. It is sometimes said that religions are dying out, that spiritual ideas are dying out of the world. To me, it seems that they have just begun to grow. The power of religion, broadened and purified, is going to penetrate every part of human life. So long as religion was in the hands of a chosen few or the body of priests, it was in temples, churches, books, dogmas, ceremonials, forms, and rituals. But when we come to the real, spiritual, universal concept, then and then alone will religion become real and living. It will come into our very nature, live in our every movement, penetrate every pore of our society, and be infinitely more a power for good than it ever has been before. That concludes the quote.
Okay, any comments or questions about these very sweeping statements that Swami has made about the necessity of religion and its power to transform humanity as it comes into its full manifestation?
I have a comment.
Yes, dear.
Oh, that's Swamiji.
Oh, that's fine.
The future he was talking about certainly isn't now.
Nope.
Um, at the time when religion was in the control of the few and the priestcraft and all that, and now it's in the control of the mobs. He must be thinking. I mean, it's so idealistic. And he's probably going to get to this, but and maybe has already said it and I missed it. But I think religion is the existence of religion in a culture is a sign of moral immaturity. Because just like oh, Haima is the host now. Wait a minute, what happened? Did you go away, Brother Shankara? You're muted.
Ah, yeah.
That was strange. Anyway, I think
There
we
he's back.
it's
He's
back.
muted.
There I am. I'm unmuted again.
Was that too
I
shocking?
don't know what happened. It just went away and then reconnected very quickly. But when it did, it somehow muted me. But here I am, and there you are. So
Did you hear what I said?
that religion in a society is a sign of moral immaturity. Yes,
I think the ultimate future that Swamiji perhaps is imagining is going beyond religion.
yes,
Religion, the existence of religion, it's always going to be, the power grabbers are going to grab for it and use it to oppress people. And only when religion gets to a point where it's no longer doing that and doing the things that Swamiji was just saying, expanding and all this, it will no longer be necessary and will therefore cease to exist. That's really kind of what I meant.
well, Swamiji was always, it seems, looking many hundreds of years ahead. The processes of social transformation are very slow. So I agree with you. And in the golden age, the coming golden age, there is no necessity for religion because there's no adharma. It is the age of perfect dharma or perfect righteousness. Now, this doesn't last. Nothing ever lasts. So it goes back to then the Silver Age and the Bronze Age and the Iron Age, the one we're living through the end of now, if we're to believe Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and the others. So religion is a big old mess right now.
I would like to second that emotion. I would agree with the idea that that religions are dying out, that spiritual ideas are dying out. If you look at in churches in this country, it is plummeting. And it seems to be true of no matter what denomination. And more and more people are self-identifying as spiritual but not religious. Well, nobody knows what that means. That means they might be deep into reading books and meditating, or it might be that, oh, they just watch a video every once in a while and go about their lives. Nobody knows what that means. And so I think religion as a whole is on the downside. But what Cindy described is definitely true, that meanwhile, the fundamentalists that are hanging on are grasping for power, and that is very much happening in our secular lives. And there are good movements like interfaith and Vedanta, which has an interfaith attitude, that are very much in the minority. And
Yes.
it's the fundamentalists that scream the loudest that get the most attention in our culture, and the mild-mannered interfaith type movements are practically invisible. And,
Yes.
it's a sad thing to see, and I don't have the optimism in religious movements that Swamiji does.
Well, it's hard for us to understand Swamiji, so I won't go so far as to characterize it even as optimism. But certainly the fundamentalists who are theocrats. They want their version of reality to be the only acceptable version of reality. And so they're thrashing the society with it. And, our society is crumbling before our very eyes. And it is tragic, but apparently necessary. And just exactly what is going to happen and how soon, we have no idea. I mean, we have all kinds of social movements, social activities, as you said, interfaith, political. We have our elections, we have this, that. Who knows what will come?
It seems to me like humanity as a whole is going through the same process that a single person has to go through in order to reach God realization. And that, I think given, with the Kali Yuga and just the way things are going, I think humanity as a whole is going into the dark night of the soul, if, per se.
Very well said. I think you're absolutely right. And most people are utterly lost. They have nothing to cling to other than their sensual experiences. And of course, as we know, those are like trying to grasp a handful of sand. And so they're desperate, and they're behaving in the way desperate people behave. But as was said before, this seems to be, for the reasons that you said, and for other, more, I don't know. And anyway, for other reasons, it seems to be necessary. And it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch.
Which, that's all the more reason to take refuge in for me, Sri Ramakrishna. But I mean, you have to take refuge in something, or
Amen.
just gonna get eaten up.
Well, that's what most people are is happening to most people. They're getting eaten up.
And it's not only taking refuge, I don't think, but also just doing what we can. We see work to do, so we do it. And it may be futile, but what choice do we have if we're living this life authentically?
Well, someone just came in and brought my lunch. Thank you very much, dear. So, yes, indeed. We do what we absolutely, what presents itself to us as the right thing to do. And what else can we do? Just like we're gathered here on this Saturday afternoon, this seems to us like the right thing to do, to find our way forward in some small sense. And each of us, whether we're saying something out loud or not, is making a great contribution to that. There's this feeling, this undercurrent of unity, of purpose, of studying together the art of spirituality. And so that's what we're doing.
It sounds depressing and all that, and just to contemplate the human suffering and all that will take place. But the thing is we have to get to that point to where we see it all as the mother, and we know that it will work itself out.
Yes.
The last paragraph of this section kind of sums up what we've just been talking about.
Please read it then, dear.
Spiritual life, according to Vedanta, thus covers the whole range of man's life, including its so-called worldly stage, when man is the sole and supreme agent of his life, with no partner called God. So if we're all one, if this is all in God, then all life is spiritual life, whether it looks like it or not.
Precisely.
We're taking our steps. We're taking our steps as we see them.
And again, this is why we gather together as we are this afternoon, to take a step together, to link arm in arm, and to take a step forward together as best we can, with one another's support. This is the glory of a congregation. We love and support one another in our very peculiar circumstances. I mean, to be a spiritual aspirant in today's world is to be a very peculiar creature indeed. To be an active spiritual aspirant. And yet here is a screenful. And there are many, many more, of course. But many, many more out of the 8 billion that are on the planet. Still is not very many. Anything else from anyone before Jeff reads on?
Yes, this is Jen. A sunny morning in California here.
Yes.
I really appreciate this group, small as you said as it is, because it really is very meaningful to me, as I'm sure it is to everyone, because everything else in our lives is a tumble of largely worldly values, and that's it. That's the all in all. So it really, to me, feels like a minority view to be so focused on spirituality and truth of ourselves and everything we see around us. And this last paragraph in the discussion about that it is all spiritual life, whether we recognize it or not, and calling the worldly stage. I work with young people, like 525 at-risk youth, and it's all about this worldly stage, and which is developmentally appropriate because they're young people. But the more I have my weekends where I'm not surrounded by young people, I realize the whole culture is also reflecting that. So to me, it seems hopeful that as young people grow up and mature, that hopefully the whole world will at some point. And I know that a lot of what I'm reading about Sri Ramakrishna and Vedanta that's the hope that a spiritual life is maturity. So
Well, that is you. Thank you for all of that, and certainly that is why Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and what Sri Ramakrishna called his band of minstrels came to effect this transformation, to end the Kali Yuga, and to usher in the golden age, this next age, where human beings are more ethereal and less, as we call it, worldly. But all of that is many, many hundreds of years in the transformation. So we take refuge and solace, as you just said, in these gatherings, because, and much applause and admiration for your life's work involving yourself with these 500 plus young people. Good for you. What a wonderful healing power you must be for them. They must admire you greatly. So thank you for all of that contribution. Anything else in response to what she said, or anything else at all?
It just seems like meeting the world with love is really the only way to get through it without it being exceedingly painful.
Well, very well said. I mean, it is not an accident that coming out of their experience with the Maharishi, that the Beatles wrote a song, the refrain of which is, "Love is all you need." Love is all you need. And indeed, if we can remain focused from that heart center and love one another, love your neighbor as yourself, as Christ was quoted earlier. Another of his powerful commandments was, love thy neighbor as thyself. And the profound reality underneath that is that thy neighbor as thyself is the self. You and that neighbor are one and the same self. And so when you're able to love in that way, as you say, life becomes much more supportable. And not that it's ever easy. It is not. Thank you. Anything else from anyone?
Brother, this is Rajiv. I think I never knew, like, when they say that establish your Ishta in your heart. I didn't actually understand initially what does the heart mean. Because I mean, like, there's this heart center and head center, and logically, like, if you go by like 1+1 = 2, it's very easy to imagine like head is higher than the heart. But then I had some I got this knowledge. Swami Vinayakananda gave this knowledge, and I think what he told is like, above the body there is energy, and above the energy there is mind, and above the mind there is intellect, and above the intellect there is awareness. And what is there in your awareness is going to drive your intellect like an algorithm. So, and the algorithm is my word, but it's basically what is in your awareness. You're trying to maximize that, and the intellect is just like an algorithm that tries to manage everything if everything is under its control. And so that heart, he told me, is really that awareness. And so when you're establishing something in your awareness, which is even beyond your intellect, that's actually the heart. I still don't know what love is. Like, I feel like what maybe in our normal body consciousness we understand as love is clinging, is neediness, is attachment. I don't know, like, what is love? Maybe a part of what we feel is love. I don't know. Yeah,
Well,
that is just some.
thank you for all of that, Rajiv. As usual, you've spun out quite an intellectual construct of a version of reality. And of course, not all of us are going to share that reality, but this is your reality, and as such, we prize it. So just keep searching for love within yourself, and you will find it. You will find it. This is the seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. These are not empty words of Jesus. If we keep seeking, we shall find. So thank you for all of that. That was really very well said, as always. You're very articulate. Anything in response to what Rajiv said, or anything else?
I would just say, you got to look inward, not outward. Don't look for it in the world. Look for it in the true self. When you find it there, then you'll have found it. But but the whole thing about seeing all as the self, and treating your brother as he was yourself, because ultimately he is. But a lot of people get stuck in the trap of waiting for someone else to change first.
Oh, yes.
And if that happens, the world never changes. It only changes if you change first.
Exactly. Precisely. If we wait for someone else in a relationship to change, hopeless condition. As always, thank you. Anything else from anyone? How are we doing for time?
We've got about 15 minutes, and
Very
the next section is fairly short, so I know we can at least cover that one.
Good. Well, I'm not trying to hurry us along. I just can't see, so I lose track of time. So please read on, dear.
Section 5, Guru Shankara, its importance for child development. When a little baby is born, we teach it self-reliance. We help it to build up its ego, its individuality, its physical, mental, and spiritual strength. We cannot teach the baby the highest philosophy of complete self-surrender. In fact, it starts its life with a complete dependence on nature. In the early days and months, physically, it is entirely dependent upon its mother. But the mother does not want this to continue further. She wants her child to be independent, self-reliant. Then only can it grow to its fullest stature. When we are similarly only babies in spiritual life, we are taught by the gift to depend upon ourselves, to be self-reliant. Try to stand on your own feet, said the mother to you when you were a baby. The mother may hold you, if you like, all your life, but you will not obtain full development and fulfillment thereby. Your legs and feet must become strong. That comes only from exercises in self-reliance and self-confidence. That is a beautiful idea when applied to the education of babies. By such exercise in self-reliance, we see the baby growing in physical strength and mental strength. And every time it grows in self-dependence and feels stronger in self-confidence, the mother feels happier and happier and encourages it more and more. She claps her hands when a child does something, and that encourages the child to further self-effort. That is how a child develops its ego, its sense of individuality. Thus, it unfolds its own potentialities. And that concludes that section.
You see, this is, again, the Swami giving us this idea that to become fully human is to become fully divine. We mustn't abjure the ego. We must fulfill its potential. We must become the gifts that we have been given. And as we become those gifts, we are fulfilling the imperatives of our ego self. Then and then only, two things are true. First, we have something to renounce. If we wish to renounce it, we have something worthy of renunciation. And secondly, we have become all that we can become as the ego self. And now, as the Swami will tell us, we'll get a tap on the shoulder, and the divine presence, of course, he refers to the Gita and Sri Krishna, therefore. This is what taps us on the shoulder and says, I have something more to show you. I have a greater yet self-reliance. Anything else from anyone before we go on? All right, dear, please read on.
All right. Before I do, I want to let you know that this next section has lots of quotations from the Gita, and I will not attempt to read the Sanskrit. I will read the English translation.
Oh, no, please do not.
Okay. I thought you'd be grateful if that developed.
Well, it's just, I wouldn't either if I were in your position.
Thank you, sir. Section 6. Purushakara, the opening note in the yoga song of the Gita. You must particularly note this truth about the training of the child, about its growth and development. Then only can you understand how we, as children in religion, should proceed. We don't begin with surrender to God, but with this attitude of self-reliance, personal effort. Otherwise, we shall be stunted in our spiritual growth, as the child shall be if, instead of exercises in self-reliance and self-effort, it wholly resorted to complete dependence on its own mother, and the mother also encouraged it that way. Here is revealed the truth about man's spiritual growth as a continual education in unfoldment. Education is the manifestation of the perfection already in man, and religion is the manifestation of the divinity already in man.
Please pause just long enough to slowly read these quotations from Vivekananda. These are two quotations from Vivekananda, and they are so instrumental to our understanding of what he means when he says it's all one. So read those two quotations again, please.
Certainly. Education is the manifestation of the perfection already in man, and religion is the manifestation of the divinity already in man, says Swami Vivekananda. That is why the Gita in the first part exhorts all men and women through Arjuna, wherefrom has come upon you at this critical situation, this dejection, un-Arya-like, disgraceful, and not conducive to the attainment of heaven, O Arjuna. Never yield to this unmanliness, O Partha. It does not befit you. Casting off this mean faint-heartedness, stand up, O scorcher of your enemies. And now this is the Swami speaking. Stand up, assert your own manhood, your own womanhood, develop your inner strength. What a beautiful, what a powerful teaching. Only in the Gita, among the world's scriptures, do you get this clear-cut teaching of self-reliance in life as the first great lesson of man's total spiritual life. When you come to the 6th chapter of the Gita, the chapter known as Dhyana Yoga, you find this truth reiterated there in verses 5 and 6. So verse 5 is, raise yourself by yourself. Don't let yourself down, for you are your own friend. You are your own enemy. The Swami says, how can it be that I am my own friend or that I am my own enemy? The next verse, verse 6, clarifies it. And this is the verse. When one has conquered oneself, when one has something with mind and sense organs, one becomes one's own friend. But when not so disciplined, one becomes, as it were, one's own enemy. And now there's a brief paragraph from the Swami. And so in the excuse me. And so in the beginning of our spiritual life, we depend upon and are taught to depend upon ourselves. We practice self-reliance and strengthen ourselves. And thus we start our long march of human effort and fulfillment. All the early chapters of the Gita are largely concerned with this growth of human individuality, with this development of individual identity and character strength as an integral part of its philosophy of a comprehensive spirituality, which is the yoga taught by the Gita. And that concludes that section.
We're got a few minutes left, yes? About 7 minutes?
7 minutes by my chronometer.
Okay. Anything from anyone about what was said or read? All right, please plunge on, dear.
The next section is kind of lengthy. I don't know if we want to start on it or not.
Well, we can start on it and then take it up again next week.
All right.
Let's just go ahead and start on it and get as far as we get. When we run out of time, just let me know and we'll close up.
Okay. Section 7, Vivekananda's spirituality of manliness. That is a significant truth which we often miss to recognize and act upon. Swami Vivekananda presents it as the central truth of his philosophy of man-making education and man-making religion. Says he in his lecture on My Plan of Campaign, which is in the Complete Works, What we want is strength, so believe in yourselves. Make your nerves strong. What we want is muscles of iron and nerves of steel. We have wept long enough. No more weeping, but stand on your feet and be men. It is a man-making religion that we want. It is man-making theories that we want. It is man-making education all around that we want. And here it is the test of truth. Anything that makes you weak, physically, intellectually, and spiritually, reject as poison. There is no life in it. It cannot be true. Truth is strengthening. Truth is purity. Truth is all knowledge. Maybe it's worth pointing out, since we have some folks that might be new to this, that this is the way people spoke back then when they referred to manliness and not humanityness. So,
Well, yes, absolutely. That it is the gender specification is not meant to be exclusive. It's meant to include, as you say, humanity.
and we
But also, it's important, I think, for us to point out, as Cindy remarked earlier, that Swamiji is very expansive, is an optimist. And when he says, anything that makes you weep, reject it as poison, well, perhaps not. We weep for the suffering of others, as did Vivekananda himself. So this is at least one exception to this dogma that he asserts. Anything that makes you weep, reject it. Is that all clear? All right.
say two popular verses of the Indian tradition, and then he quotes two verses, and he doesn't say what he's quoting, so I don't know where this is coming from. And again, I'm not reading the Sanskrit. Lakshmi, or the goddess of fortune, comes only to the industrious lion among men. It is only weaklings that say that we have to take what fate brings unto us. Forsake this dependence on fate and express your manliness through the strength of self-reliance. What harm is there if no results come after you put forth your endeavor? It is verily only through industriousness that we accomplish what we are to be achieved, not through vain daydreamings. No deer are going to oblige a lion and enter into its mouth while it is lazily asleep. So the Swami says, that is the first great lesson. Gain physical strength and mental strength. Develop your talents and capacities and work efficiency. Gain self-confidence, practice self-reliance, and earn knowledge and wealth by hard, honest labor. And share your wealth and happiness with others and earn their goodwill and appreciation. All this is part and parcel of the spiritual training of man in the early stages. Renunciation of wealth, renunciation of this I, the letter I, complete surrender to God comes later, not at the beginning. Swami Vivekananda sought to emphasize this truth about human growth very much, because he found among his people many who were weak and good for nothing, and yet holding the attitude, God, I am nothing, you are everything, I surrender myself to you. They are really nothing. Obviously, there is nothing praiseworthy about their statement of self-surrender. It is meaningless to regard anyone unfit for the world as fit for God. God will say to himself, what shall I do with this fellow? He or she will be a burden to me. It is not a joy to have such a devotee. Bhakti or devotion to me is made of a sterner stuff. It's time, but we just have a little bit more to go. So shall I go ahead and wrap this up?
Go ahead.
This is a great idea. The sooner we understand it, the better, says Swami Vivekananda in his lecture on Vedanta and its application to Indian life. Strength, strength is what the Upanishads preach to me from every page. O man, be not weak. Are there no human weaknesses, says man? There are, say the Upanishads, but will more weakness heal them? Would you try to wash dirt with dirt? Will sin cure sin? Weakness cure weakness? Aye, it is only literature in the world where you find the world. I'm not familiar with this word. Abhi, A-B-H-I-H.
Say it again.
A-B-H-I-H.
Oh,
Abhi.
fearlessness. Fearlessness. I mean, Abhi means fearlessness or strength of character.
Okay, thank you. So I'll read this last sentence again. Is it only literature in the world where you find the word Abhi, fearless, used again and again? And that wraps up Swami V, and one more sentence from Swami R. Only clean things can remove dirt. Only strength can remove weakness. Only light can remove darkness.
So that's a wonderful place to stop. So again, thank you all for coming. Thank you for joining in this current of spirituality that carries us forward. And we'll conclude as we do by saying, Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. And may we go forward, secure in the knowledge that we are in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our mother and father. As the Divine Mother, as the Divine Being looks over us lovingly as a mother and father, supports and nourishes us as a mother and father, so that same Divine Being looks to our welfare in this sense as a mother and father. So may all that be true for each of us, and may we each be well and in bright spirits. So until tomorrow morning, when you may wish to listen to this Swami, his talk will be Zoomed, but if you have the opportunity, he will be speaking in the chapel at the Vedanta Center in Tucker. So until the next time we meet, which will be, the possibility is Tuesday, any final thought or concern from anyone? All right, dears. Away we go. Until next time. Thanks for coming.